What is up, everybody? This is Rebecca Johnson of Supergirl Radio, and we're about to get started here. Morgan, I see you're there at backstage. Are you good to be brought in? Okay, good. I assume we have just the one doc. I have 3 docs open because I made 2 docs of notes for these 2 episodes that we're going to be talking.
Nice.
So I actually have 3 docs, but we should only have technically 1 doc for the run of the show. Before we get started, Morgan, Rachel asks, so will episodes 3 and 4 be covered next week? Since we did have to, due to personal things, we had to miss last week. So now we're a little behind.
Yeah, I think I was actually going to suggest that. I was like, since we did 1 and 2, rather than doing 3 when everybody else is watching 4, maybe we'll do 3 and 4, and then we'll be all caught up.
We'll try to play a little catch up. The only thing is, I think in July, I'm taking a trip, a big European trip, and
that's right.
We might be behind after that. So we'll play catch up until we get behind again, and then we'll catch up again.
Yeah, I might be taking a little trip like at the end of the month too. So we might end up doing like a couple fun double episodes.
So please be patient with us. We will try to get them as soon as we can. And somewhere in there, I guess while we're kind of taking a break, maybe I'll do a little Superman celebration, something or other, and we'll put something together. So, okay. All right. Well, I think we're good to go. We should get started. We've got a lot of ground to cover. So we will get started here officially.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
Kira. I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is Lena Luthor, Boardroom or Ballroom, because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Welcome to Supergirl Radio, your source for all things related to the character of Kara Zor-El. My name is Rebecca Johnson.
I'm Morgan Glennon.
And we are live and wired on the DC TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page to discuss the first 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman, titled More Things in Heaven and Earth and Adventures with My Girlfriend. So these are the first 2 episodes. I should have said season 2 of My Adventures with Superman, to be specific. So season 2 has started, and we are going to be diving into the first 2 episodes. So we don't really have any news. So since we have 2 episodes to discuss, let's go ahead and dig into those, because we have a lot to talk about. So the first episode that we're going to be discussing is More Things in Heaven and Earth. And I pulled the description from YouTube, which reads, quote, Clark agonizes over what to do for his and Lois's first Valentine's Day until visions of his father lead him, Jimmy, and Lois to the remains of his spaceship and the new villains of Task Force X! Exclamation point, unquote. Spaceship is uppercase.
Oh. Spaceship.
Is that the name of the spaceship? Is it like...
It's spaceship. You know how like the Alien Bar was just called Alien Bar?
Right.
This is like, let's not overcomplicate it. It's spaceship.
I don't know. That sticks out to me as kind of weird. But so that is the YouTube description for this first episode of season 2. So I think because this was monumental for Supergirl fans in a big way, I think we should start talking about baby Kara we got introduced to in this episode.
She's so cute.
She is so cute. And so she and Cal have a little bit of a moment with a hologram of sorts, like an AI kind of thing. The AI giggles as a baby would, and which was very cute. So there's a lot of emphasis on Kal-El discovering some of his Kryptonian heritage and meeting some of his Kryptonian family members and finding out that he has a cousin. So, Morgan, what did you think about the introduction of Kara into the My Adventures with Superman universe?
I mean, big news that she exists. First of all,
I know it's not always the case in Superman stories.
Not a guarantee that say she exists or say she would have gone to a wedding. Or we're not bitter about it. That's what's important. No, I thought it was so exciting when we saw the trailer for season 2 and it looked like Supergirl was coming. I was like, yeah, and I like that. Right at the front of the season, they sort of set up Clark's storyline as being kind of like the search for Kara.
Yes.
Which is awesome, because it means even when she's not in episodes, because he hasn't found her yet, she's kind of like in the background, kind of a major part of the season. So it makes me also believe that like she's not going to be like a one-off character. Like, this is your cousin Kara. Oopsies, she's got to go back to off Screensville. I'm not saying that happened any other property.
Definitely.
She just must go. So it makes it seem like she's going to be a bigger character for this season, and maybe like a through line for the season, which is great, which means that she's not going to be one off. And also, I think it's interesting because it's a little bit of a different origin story for her, which we haven't seen before. Usually she's older than Clark or Kal-El, and she's kind of being sent after him to take care of him, and then just gets, stuck somewhere and ends up being younger. But in this situation, it looks like she is around the same age as him. So
babies.
Yeah, both little babies. So she wasn't sent on a mission. She's not going to have the same memories of Krypton as she does in like a lot of the other stories about Kara. So I think that'll be really interesting to see how that changes her as a character, because that's usually the big difference between Clark and Kara, is that she remembers Krypton and he doesn't. But there's no way, unless she's got the best baby memory of all time, that she's going to remember it either. So it really opens up the storytelling of like, okay, well, like, what's this version of Kara going to be like? Where's this version of Kara? Where has she been? Like, what's her what's her story going to be when we eventually find her? So I thought it was really interesting. It made me really interested in what they were going to do with the character when they do eventually introduce her.
It does change the character of Supergirl quite a bit, because one of her defining traits is that she has so much more tragedy to her character because she lived on Krypton, because she knew the culture and the people there. And when it blew up, when it was destroyed, she lost everything. And Kal-El never knew those people and that culture. And so it's not as I shouldn't say not a big deal to him, but it's not something that he remembers or understands, so he has no connection to it. So that would change her character quite a bit. I am wondering if they will reverse those roles where Cal will teach her about Krypton, because
Oh, yeah.
in My Adventures with Superman, he is the one who connects with the AI Jor-El, who tells him a lot about the Kryptonian history of the Kryptonian Empire is what he kept calling it. So I wonder if they'll flip these roles to where Cal will try to help her understand not only her powers, but like her Kryptonian culture. I don't know. He's still figuring it out himself. Quite a bit, but yeah, that will change Supergirl's character. But I'm just so excited that she's going to be in it. And to your point, it seems like she's a really, really big deal in this season. I was actually kind of shocked for two reasons. One, that she was introduced right at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
And then two, that she seemed to be such a big deal. So that was very exciting to me on those levels. So I'm really excited about the dynamic between Cal and Kara, because of the beautiful way that they connected the two of them through the AI and the hands. And I'm really interested in the cousin dynamic and how they will progress that as the season goes along. So very excited about baby Kara, and maybe getting to see grown adult Kara. I think it's been 22 years. So
Oh, yeah.
like a young adult, young working woman, maybe. I don't know.
Working at the I was going to say working for Cat Grant at Catco, but I guess Cat is still at the Daily Planet in this version. So
Maybe
no
she
Catco.
joins oh wait, hang on. Maybe she'll join Team Flamebird.
Anything is possible.
And I guess that's a good segue to talk about the second most important thing in My Adventures with Superman, which is the fact that Jimmy Olsen is now, thanks to his Flamebird channel, he is quite wealthy now. He has a net worth of a substantial amount of money, and he has been using that to really kind of show off a little bit. I'll kind of read off some of the monetary figures that we got in this episode. The episode starts at his net worth being $5,497,386. Then, after he deducts how much the Flamebird Valentine's Day cards cost, it goes down to $5,334,008, which means
How much did he spend on those cards?
So subtract so 497 minus 334. What is that? I'm trying to do math in my head. So that's 163, so $137,000. Did he spend
Oh my god,
$137 on Valentine's Day?
that's such a stupid stupid thing to spend that much money on.
So maybe he spent money on designing the cards. Maybe he had to pay a graphic, like a really famous graphic designer.
That's
then he would have
true.
had to print a whole bunch. How many did he print? That seems like a large number to print. And then he also inserted the Flamebird sound when you open up.
That's true.
When you open up the card. So he had a lot going on with those Valentine's Day
yeah,
cards.
that Build-A-Bear technology is not cheap.
So he does spend quite a bit on the Valentine's Day cards. Then after Jimmy mentions renting a plane, they go to the I believe Antarctica. They go to the cold place, which I assume was kind of like the Fortress of Solitude stuff. But Jimmy, Lois, and Clark go out there, and so Jimmy rents a plane for that. And so it goes down from $5,334,008 to $4,530,005. So he's really, I mean, that's like 800,000, I think, somewhere in there. So he is.
How is it that much? I mean, I guess renting a private plane is very pricey, but that feels excessive.
Well, I mean, they did go to Antarctica.
That's true.
It was a private jet. And maybe they had like some stops that they stopped in several places on
got some snacks, got some road snacks.
I really feel like Jimmy needs to find a way to reinvest some of this. He needs to be making money instead of just spending it all.
I feel like Jimmy needs a financial advisor, someone who's like, don't do that. Don't do that. Somebody who's like making his money work for him, you know?
Yes. I mean, the Valentine's Day cards were pretty excellent.
They're pretty great. Yeah. I like the Flamebird logo. It's looking great. The little alien with like the flame coming out with the bird on the top. I think it's great. Listen, branding is so important.
And it's a solid pun on the card. So I like that. And I would buy a Flamebird jacket.
I would too. It's so funny that you say that because Rachel in the chat said I would buy a Flamebird jacket. So it's not just us.
No.
I think the world is abuzz about this Flamebird jacket.
My Adventures with Superman people, please make that merch happen because I think a lot of us would purchase it.
We would buy it.
So what do you think? Now that we've gone through his net worth counter that was provided by the Metropolitan City Bank. So this is the official net worth counter of Jimmy Olsen. So what did you think about his new situation with the Daily Planet? How is that going for him?
So far, it looks like he's making some big money mistakes. Was sort of my perspective. I think that there's a non-zero chance that like by the end of the season, he is down back to like no net worth. Like he's just back to where he was at the beginning of the season, at the beginning of the show.
He just goes back to intern status, I guess.
He's like maybe still working there, but he has no money now. So now suddenly Jimmy's like selling like Herbalife or something like that. He's like fully in an MLM. He's like, please, the leggings are so comfortable. He's got to stop spending this way.
Yeah, he needs to monetize. He needs to get sponsorships, something to like put money back into his net worth. I think he's just spending it a little too cavalierly, though.
Yeah, I was also kind of confused. So the Daily Planet at the end of last season, if I remember right, bought his channel.
Yes.
His whatever it is, like video tube channel. I'm sure that I don't do they say YouTube? I don't think that they do.
Can't remember. I'd have to look at my notes.
But he in this season he's like, Perry and I, we are both bosses. And it's pair bear. We are both bosses. And it's like, I mean, on the same level though, like they acquired your channel, but I don't know that makes you like on the same level as the editor-in-chief. It just feels like he should be like working. I would assume he's working for the Daily Planet. He just has like maybe he just got a bunch of money from them acquiring it. So I'm like, now I want to like a deep dive into Jimmy's financials, because I'm like, what did they pay him? Like, did he renegotiate a salary? Like, is he getting or did he just like give up the entire channel for that amount of money? And now he's like, I mean, he's got to be taking down a salary too, right?
I mean, I would think so based on how much video
He's there all the
content
time.
he's got to post. So he needs to be posting video content daily because they are the Daily Planet. And he has not been doing it because I guess he's
He
been
is
running
not.
around with that big money that he's got. But he is now head of the Flamebird video division. And that's kind of what he is head over. So Perry, I guess, gave him a video division that he's supposed to be posting every day. What I was confused about is that Perry says he wants Jimmy to post a video by 5 p.m. Is that an optimized posting time? That feels like everybody's on their way home. They're not going to be watching videos.
Yeah, it feels like, you know, if you're doing a lot of like news content, that's like a thing that like people watch at their desk instead of doing what they should be doing at work. Like, at least that's what I did. It's like just a little treat for me. What's going on in the world? It doesn't feel like a 5 p.m. Like I get home, you know, I sit on the couch. I'm like, yeah, what's going on? What's on Flamebird?
Well, now that you mention it, the news typically, old school news would air at 5, 6, and maybe like
That's
at 10 or
true.
11, depending on your time zone. So
This is like the new local news where it's like,
Yeah.
let's find out what's going on in the world. Jimmy, take it away.
yeah. So maybe it's replacing the old time slots of the local news.
Or maybe he has to have a video ready for the next day. So he's always kind of
I
think
like
that would
ahead. Yeah, that makes sense.
That would make sense in terms of timing. Now, I don't feel like that's what Jimmy's doing, but but producing ahead does seem like it would make a lot of sense. Like, oh, I'm getting tomorrow's thing ready today, instead of like, oh my God, I need to post something in 5 minutes or else I'm late. But that is definitely the track that Jimmy's on, because he's not posting anything.
No, he has not. And I'm actually disappointed about this because he used to do live streams and he was crushing it.
Yes.
All those people would be in the chat talking about everything. Why isn't he just live streaming the news?
Yes, I don't understand why his business model seems to be so dramatically different now that he's been acquired by the Daily Planet. It's like one of those things where it's like the thing that they that people liked about a thing, as soon as it gets acquired by a company, they're like, well, we can't do that anymore. It's like, but that's what people liked about it. Shh.
Well, to be fair, right now there has not been a monster roaming around the city, so
that's true.
There's not really been too much that he can live stream as.
Yeah, the news isn't as big and dramatic right now as it perhaps once was. I do think I can't remember if it happened in this episode or the next episode, but we will, I guess, eventually have to talk about Jimmy staffing up, perhaps.
Oh yes, that's the next episode. Team Flamebird.
And whether or not that makes any sense at all, but that, you know, that's to come. But I think he does talk at the end of this one, like, oh, I need some help. So he knows that he needs to like hire some people, because he's talking about that, you know, he's Flamebird. he's a lone wolf, or bird, as you will. And I think by the end of this episode, he realizes, hey, I might need some help getting all this done. Producing like a daily show is a little bit of a challenge. So he realizes that he can't do it all by himself. Although, again, one could argue, couldn't you? He's done a lot of live streams before. Just get in front of a camera and tell people about what's going on.
He needs Clark to do something. Superman needs to be doing things.
Arguably, he has like the easiest job in the world, because his best friend is Superman. When Superman does something, it is news.
Yes.
So he could just be like, hey, go out there and like give me a call when you find like a kitten in a tree. I'll live stream from whatever you're doing. Oh, look, I'm live streaming from the taco truck where Superman is getting a spicy chicken taco.
He ran into Calendar Man for Taco Tuesday.
Yes, Calendar Man is like, I'm also here, and then it becomes like a whole thing. But like, yeah, you would think that it was like his channel could be just become like Superman updates, where he just kind of follows Clark around, seeing what he's up to. It's like it looks like Superman is going into the grocery store.
This brings up a good point, because I wanted to ask you about this. Perry tells them that Vicky Vale over at the Gotham Gazette has been scooping the Daily Planet on every major news story for months. My question is, how? They have Superman. What news stories is she scooping them on? I thought that was strange.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess a lot of stuff is happening over in Gotham. It kind of always is. There's a lot of crime there.
There's a lot of crazy people.
So much crime. Yeah, I thought that was weird too. I was like, well, I mean, but you guys are right next to Superman, and she's a little bit further away. So how she keeps scooping you guys makes me wonder about the how good they are at the Daily Planet.
Well, before we go on to our next topic, I wanted to hop back in the chat to see what people were talking about. Rachel asks, did you watch the episodes on Max, or were they airing on Cartoon Network? I watched the premiere live on TV, and there's a promo during a commercial break that seems spoilery. I've been watching them on Max.
Me too.
I find that's a very easy way to do it. Mind the Gap says the Adult Swim promo bumpers are a little spoilery, so FYI to people if you are looking to watch it on Adult Swim. Stanley says that's a terrible origin change for Supergirl. I guess wait and see, Stanley. We'll have to see what they do with it. So far, they've been making a lot of my dreams come true.
Yeah, so far I feel like
I'm gonna wait and see on this one.
Usually we're a little bit like, I don't know how we feel, but I feel like we actually, my Adventures with Superman has built up trust with me, where I'm like, yeah, I don't know about this origin change, but you know what? I feel like they're gonna do something fun with it. So I'm taking my hands off the wheel a little bit. Show me what you got.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they did give us Comet the Super Horse, and the Jimmy stuff has been really delightful. So
good.
So I think that is something that has earned a little, a trust for this viewer, at least. Let's see. Mind the Gap also says, I think Jimmy loses his money before the season is over. Carrie says in the chat, Jimmy's money counter shows me one thing: stuff is expensive in Metropolis. Well, maybe he could fly globally. He's written a jet. He's
a jet setter now. He's got that custom jacket. You think that was free? He's got those sunglasses. They look expensive.
Yeah, I think things may be expensive where he is, but maybe he's getting stuff outside of Metropolis. We don't know. Let's see. Stanley says everyone's overcharging Jimmy, so that may also be the case. He may be taken advantage of. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, so Mind the Gap says Jimmy has made himself valuable because theoretically most people get their news from Flamebird. So the Daily Planet needs Jimmy. See, that's what I thought too. Like, I mean, he would be a very valuable thing, an asset to the Daily Planet. But the problem is he's not delivering on his content. He needs to be daily delivering that.
No, he's sleeping on the job a little bit.
Yeah. So, and then New Rachel says, Jimmy's a generous guy. Maybe he just tips a lot. Maybe he's just over tipping people.
He's just too generous.
So that also could be the case. And I saw a comment about something that I wanted to transition to the next topic, but let's see. Mind the Gap says, I like how in the episode everyone was questioning Clark's romantic plans, even Jor-El. So, Morgan, I was curious, what did you think about the grand romantic gestures that Superman or Clark was being told by everyone he knew? Cat Grant, Jor-El, everyone was suggesting that he do a grand romantic gesture for Lois on Valentine's Day. What did you think about that?
I thought it was really funny as like a running joke, and like my big laugh of the episode was when Jor-El was like, "Really? That's all you're gonna do?" It's like, son, we can finally communicate and have this quality time together. Really, you're not going to go a little bit further out for your girlfriend, though?
And he was like, Dad, you do?
Dad, no. I thought that like that running joke through the episode was really funny. I also thought like his idea of what to do for Valentine's Day sounded like something that Lois would have liked, actually.
Yes.
That maybe would have been a great Valentine's Day for her, but then everybody got in his head.
Ramen on the roof of the Daily Planet, and he wrote her a poem.
And he wrote her a poem.
Just happened to be the poem in Superman the movie when Lois and Superman go flying, and she does the whole poem of "Can You Read My Mind," which Amy Adams knows how to sing, which I did not know was a song, but actually it was a song. So
I did not know any of that. That's so good. Well, clearly the writers did.
yes, they are aware of it. So I think Lois would have liked that. That would have been, I think, a grand romantic gesture.
I think so too. That's so cute. And you're doing something that you know she likes. She loves the Daily Planet. She loves ramen. Who doesn't? And they have special moments up there on the roof. So I think that he had a good idea. I think everybody got in his head. But I think that the way that he pivoted was actually very good as well. Who doesn't want to see the Northern Lights?
I mean, that's pretty good. I mean, I think if you were looking to have a grand romantic gesture, that's pretty tough. I mean, that's at the top.
It's hard to beat.
That's a great show.
I do think it's funny that like Clark is somebody who can basically fly anywhere very fast. So like they could have flown to like Paris for the evening and like went and got a fancy dinner or something. But his big thing that he thought was like upstairs. I'm gonna take her all the way up the steps. So it's like, Clark, you didn't even want to leave the building. I would be using Clark for free airfare all the time.
They must eat ramen a lot because he knows that her favorite ramen is extra spicy and that he eats mild ramen for him. So so that must be a thing for the two of them. So yeah, I think she would have been cool with that. But you know what ended up happening? I think it was pretty good too. She forgot all about Valentine's Day, which feels character correct for Lois Lane.
It does. She's like, oh, that's today. Yeah, I also have a present for you. Yeah, Lois Lane is definitely like the kind of person who's going to forget most major holidays. And you're going to have to give her probably a gentle reminder, like, it's our anniversary. And she'll like, yes, of course it is.
She's so busy trying to create headlines that
exactly. She's got to get to the top.
One thing that I thought was really nice with this episode is that at the beginning of the episode, which actually echoed the first episode of season 1 with the young Clark that had the S on his like ringer T shirt running through the cornfields. That was in the first episode of season 1. And they sort of did that a little bit, but from a different perspective. We saw the young Clark running through the fields, but Superman was now chasing him. So I thought that was a cool way to reintroduce us to season 2. And then during that like nightmare vision that he has, there's a situation where he's questioning himself about not being human, that he's not Ma and Pa Kent's son. And Lois says something about how he's not human in the nightmare. And then they have the little talk at the end of the episode where Superman asks Lois, does it ever bother you I'm not human? And she says, does it ever bother you that I am? And I was like, that's a great little section of dialogue. Just really, really good bit of writing there, because it also echoed the beginning with his insecurities and his nightmare that he had about not being human. So I really liked that bit of the writing there. So I thought the Clark and Lois moments in this episode were pretty great.
Yeah, me too. I really liked all of the stuff with Clark and Lois. And I like that they have kind of introduced a little bit of conflict in the relationship, because he doesn't tell her about Kara. He doesn't really tell her that he has a cousin out there yet. So you kind of get left waiting and thinking like, oh, when's he going to tell her about that? Because I think, if I remember right, that doesn't happen until episode 2.
He finally gets to talk to her about it in episode 2, but he tries to start telling her in the first episode, but she has something she needs to tell him
Oh
before
yeah.
he can get there, which is, by the way, I think Task Force X has my dad. Can we go get him?
a great cliffhanger. I was
Yes.
like, I am glad the next episode's already out because then I can go right into it. But speaking of fathers, we see he finally gets to talk to 𝙎𝙪 because finally the AI has figured out English.
It just took the translation program needed time to learn the language.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
And I thought that whole section was very like affecting. I wasn't the hugest fan of him immediately. Does an AI die? I guess that's sort of a moral question. Blipping out essentially, like he kind of the AI 𝙎𝙪 kind of dies, and I was like, oh. I mean, I guess you don't want to have AI 𝙎𝙪 around to be able to answer every single question he might have, story-wise. But it did seem a little early to kill off AI 𝙎𝙪. Like, we barely knew ye.
I agree. I think the one way you could bring him back is that maybe with that certain location, that ship, maybe he blipped out, but maybe if you bring him into another Kryptonian location and maybe use that,
Ah.
maybe they talk about a beacon that he needs to go find. That becomes more important in episode 2. But I wonder if there's a way to bring him back in a different location. That's kind of how it
Oh.
worked in Man of Steel, where 𝙎𝙪 could kind of go with different ships, and depending on where he was and where Superman had that key, AI 𝙎𝙪 could show up. So I wonder
That's
if it's
true.
something similar to that.
To be fair, AI 𝙎𝙪 also doesn't make it in a Man of Steel,
No.
which I was also sad about. So I guess I'm just a big fan of AI 𝙎𝙪. I was like, no, we haven't had enough of AI 𝙎𝙪. He's always so cool.
And this one has an eye patch. The only thing that I am skeptical about, and maybe this is explained in a certain way, but I did have a moment where I was like, is AI 𝙎𝙪 someone to be trusted? Because he
Ooh,
had the like Brainiac symbol kind of thing on his forehead. And so I
interesting.
did have a moment where I was like, this seems really sweet and he seems very genuine, but what if this is Brainiac messing with Cal somehow? I don't know. That
I,
was just something I thought about.
this episode also did like open up some questions for me about what this version of Krypton was like, because usually when they talk about like the destruction I can speak of Krypton, it's usually like, we got to technology, we technologied our way to oblivion. It's like, oh cool, I think we're doing that now with our own AIs. That's fun. And in this version, it seemed like their Krypton was more like a colonizer, like a planet that went around and like took over other planets and like invade it, and that ended up kind of leading to their doom. So I was interested in like this version of Krypton. Obviously, there's still like seemingly brainiacs, so it seems like maybe that also the technology did play a part. But I was interested in the fact that it seemed like they were much more warlike in this version of the Superman story.
And help me understand, because it seemed like Krypton had come into conflict with the Brainiacs. So were they taking over the Brainiac planet, or were the Brainiacs just coming to pick a fight with the Kryptonians?
That's what I was unclear about too. I guess we're gonna have to like find out later in the season. But I wasn't really sure where the Brainiac Krypton overlap happened. Like, were they trying to take over the Brainiac planet and the Brainiacs planet was like no, or was it the opposite, where the Brainiacs trying to like
could have been
invade Krypton? I wasn't really sure, but I did think it was interesting that at least now, as we understand it, it seems like Krypton was kind of like maybe the people there weren't the best, like usually they're like not the best in the fact that like somebody's like, hey, the planet's gonna explode, and they're like, no, which is like its own kind of thing. But this version of Krypton seemed like it was going out like attacking other planets. And I was like, oh, that's kind of different for
Yeah.
the story.
Very different, especially to put some of those House of L characters kind of in a negative light. But that's also been the case. That was kind of the case on Supergirl. Kara's parents there were not necessarily sometimes shown in the best light. And of course, Kara's parents in general, Supergirl's parents, sometimes are not painted in the greatest of lights.
Zor-El's a little bit of a shady one usually.
So sometimes he's a cyborg Superman. Sometimes Allura is not a great person, like in the Sterling Gates run. So unfortunately for Kara, sometimes her parents are sometimes not the best. Depends on the writer for sure. But yeah, I did like the AI Jor-El. I hope this is not the last time we see him, because he actually came in pretty clutch for Superman in the fight against Amanda Waller and Deathstroke and this character named Damage. They all get into a skirmish, and Jor-El comes in and he helps Superman out, which was pretty neat. Even though he's just an AI, he actually got into the fight and helped Superman defeat them. So I really liked that. So I guess we will see what happens with him. If we will get to see him again, not sure. Okay, so I guess, Morgan, before we wrap up our discussion, was this the one? I know I saw something in the chat about Lex and the Alex character. Was that this episode or the second episode? I need
Mind the Gap says it's a small thing, but did Jimmy accidentally inspire Lex Luthor? I believe that was in this episode. Like, they talked to Alex, who is mad that he's like losing his job, and Jimmy's like, listen, kid. I too went through hardships, and look at me, I'm so rich now. And then like puts on his sunglasses, and basically is like, you gotta figure out what your thing is, and you got to do your thing. And Lex is like, my thing is going to be crimes.
Yeah, this is the episode. I was trying to find my notes. Jimmy says to Lex, don't wait for someone to give you a chance. Make one. Carve your own path and find the people who will help you make those dreams a reality. And Alex here takes that to heart, which comes into play in season 2. So he actually takes Jimmy's advice. So Jimmy shares some wisdom here in this episode for this young man named Alex. So we'll get to talk more about him when we discuss episode 2. Now, one thing I guess I forgot to mention. So I guess if there are any other things that you wanted to talk about, let me know. But one thing I did want to bring up is that Lois has a friend at Star Labs named Hank. And I started to wonder if this was Hank Henshaw.
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
Because this Hank at Star Labs says he has a wife, which Hank Henshaw does in the comics. He has a wife named Terry. So I don't know if this is Hank Henshaw, but I did kind of wonder about that. I don't know if Hank Henshaw in the like the Death of Superman sort of cyborg Superman arc, the reign of the Superman, all that. He is like a space guy. He goes up in a space shuttle named Excalibur, I think. And so I wonder if that's related to Star Labs here. So that's just my suspicion. I just wanted to put, Brian says the credits gave Hank's full name. What? Okay. Rachel says, I think his name is in the credits as Hank Henshaw. So, okay.
Ooh, okay. Good guess.
So my suspicion is correct. Okay. So thank you all in the chat for confirming that. But yes, Hank Henshaw will possibly become Cyborg Superman. Traditionally in the comics, on Supergirl, he did. It was just kind of a roundabout kind of okay version of Cyborg Superman.
They got there.
Yeah, I mean, he became Cyborg Superman. He just kind of just had a mask on. Looking like Phantom of the Opera. But yeah, so we'll see if Hank Henshaw comes back to play in this episode. I think that would be really cool if they would actually go back to Hank Henshaw's comic book accurate story and have him go up into space and something happens to him in space and like he loses his wife and all that kind of stuff. That would be
I
would
could
be
see
great.
them. I could definitely see them doing that because they do seem to be bringing in a lot of comic book characters, even if they're, changing things about, their backstories or their origins or something. It does seem like they are at least aware of who the character is and like what their deal is before doing their own take on it, which is like sometimes you would watch some of these shows and you'd be like, did you just see a name somewhere? Because I'm not really seeing the connection to the comic book character. I mean, do your own take, right? But it's like so far away from like so far. It's almost as if you were just like picking a name at random. Ahem. Snapper.
Just using the name, but not the actual essence of the character. Electra WWF says in the chat, must be something that I missed. Hank in the episode says he was taking his wife into space for Valentine's Day.
Uh-oh.
So I think we might see Cyborg Superman on this show because in the comics, she is also like an astronaut who goes with him into
Ooh.
space. So that would make sense. Yeah, there's a lot of talk in the chat about Cyborg Superman. So hopefully they will and also I should note, I'm just throwing this out here because I don't know if this will mean anything. But Lois's pitch at the morning meeting, she gives a headline that says "Death from Above." Well, Hank Henshaw, Cyborg Superman, is very famous for being in the Death of Superman storyline. So I don't know if this is going to be something where Superman may have a Death of Superman story at the end of this season. I kind of hope not, just because it's been done a lot. It was done in BVS. They're doing it in Superman and Lois. I'm kind of over the Death of Superman, even though I love that storyline. But it's been done a lot, so I'll go with it if they take a different spin on it. But it does seem like some of these things are sort of pointing towards that.
I also feel like, I mean, I don't remember if it's been renewed for any additional seasons, My Adventures with Superman. It might have already, but because Max likes to sometimes renew it for multiple seasons for some reason. And then will they happen? Maybe. No guarantee, really. A renewal's no guarantee. But it doesn't feel like a season 2 storyline. Like Death of Superman doesn't feel like a season 2 storyline, to me at least. That feels like something where that's like a really big story beat. And like, if you have that in your back pocket, you save that for like a later season, because after you've killed Superman, how do you continue to up the stakes in the next season? It's just like, maybe that's a 3 or 4 thing, you guys.
Well, Lois, Superman and Lois are doing it. They started it at the end of season 3 going into season 4, which is the final season. So that makes sense. Yeah. So I don't know if that's what they will do, but the Hank Henshaw and the Death from Above headline makes me think that something is coming in that direction, but I don't know. That's just my speculation. Morgan, is there anything else you wanted to talk about with this first episode of season 2?
No, I think we pretty much covered it all. I was just so happy to be back in My Adventures with Superman, to be honest. Like I hadn't watched season 1 since it aired. And so as soon as it started, I was like, oh, that's right. I love this show.
It is good and I enjoy it. So I am looking forward to seeing the rest of the season. So good start to My Adventures with Superman season 2. So let's talk about the second episode of season 2, which is called Adventures with My Girlfriend. And the YouTube description for this one reads, quote, "While Perry saddles Jimmy with a new team to run..." Oh, shoot. I'm not ready for it. Hang on. Okay, let me... Flamebird, Clark and Lois investigate Stryker Penitentiary and discover just how far Amanda Waller will go to rid the world of Superman, unquote.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this episode does start with kind of like a day in the life of Amanda Waller when she wakes up, what she's doing, her routine. So Morgan, what did you think about Amanda Waller in this episode?
Love her. Amazing queen.
Mandy, I should say.
Mandy, queen. I feel like this episode, I know that last season we speculated quite a bit about the relationship between the general and Mandy, and I don't feel like this episode put any of those speculations to rest. Let me just say, there was some sexual tension there. I was like, oh, Mandy, girl, are you sure you want to kill the general? Can't you guys work this out?
She knew his coffee order.
She knew his coffee order. She like menacingly cut into an apple and then offered it to him. there was some flirtation there. Sure, she ultimately was like, I'm sorry, I guess I have to kill you. But before that, I felt like they could have made it work.
Yeah. There was some connection there. I enjoyed the interrogation scene between Amanda Waller and Sam Lane, and how she really was trying to get in there and get information from him about his hidden safe houses, which I wonder if we'll ever get to see. Apparently there's some high level tech that he's hiding away. You mentioned the apple. So a friend of mine once told me about a literature class she took where she was, I think we talked about this with the Woman of Tomorrow comic book series, because an apple shows up there, but it can usually symbolize like the fall of man and sin and things like that. So I don't know if that gives way to the sexual tension between them. but the apple being there, I thought was very interesting, if it was a metaphor for that kind of thing. But she definitely seems to know how to break Sam. So Amanda Waller was really trying to get information out of him. And she also mentioned Checkmate, which is an organization, like a shady organization in DC Comics. So I wonder if we'll get more information about their connection to Checkmate. What I wanted to ask you about, Morgan, about Amanda Waller, is that her alarm clock goes off at 6 a.m. Do you feel that's too early or too late for a general?
Ooh, that's a good question. I feel like generals are like rise and grind hustle culture kind of people. Not me. I'm a gentle sleep in until when I wake, which is who knows. In my ideal world, I'm not getting up before like 9 a.m. But I do feel like 6 a.m. is early. Like it would make me feel pukey. But but for like a general, those are the kind of people who are like, you're like, what's your morning routine? They're like, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, and I first sit down with my gratitude journal. Then I do my full workout, and then I meditate. Then I make myself a 5-star breakfast. Only after I've eaten, I've carbo loaded, another run. Then I get dressed and I do my full face of makeup. It takes 45 minutes. And then it's like, you're like, oh my God, you've lived a whole life.
Is that like what would that TikTok look like, where they're like the day?
Oh yeah, a day in the life of an evil general. Get up at 4 a.m. Gratitude time. It's like a day in the life of Amanda Waller. After I do my gratitude journal, I do my evil for the day to-do list. Then daily affirmations in the mirror. You're beautiful. You're strong. You're evil. You're powerful.
She actually does give herself.
She does.
A pep talk. She says,
so good.
She says, you are the master of your destiny. You control the outcome of this day. The universe gives it what you bring to it. Today, you bring fire, Amanda.
Yes. She would have such an amazing like a daily TikTok presence where it's like, and then like the daily affirmations would get more and more unhinged as like things start to like devolve around her. Like by the end of the season, it would just be like, you are the boss. You will crush Superman like a bug for humanity, of course.
Of course, the protection of humanity. She does know about kryptonite now, so she is very dangerous.
Not good. Not good.
I personally think 6 a.m. is sleeping in for a general. I was a little disappointed by that. I thought at least 4 a.m. she should be getting up. So I don't know what she's doing with her time, but waking up at 6 a.m. I thought was a little too late for Mandy here. So I guess now that we've kind of talked about the Amanda Waller-ness of this episode, what did you think about Sam Lane, who we definitely know was romantically involved with Mandy?
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely. Listen, it happened. It happened at some point. I see a comment from Electra WWF in the chat who says Sam was already married when we saw his flashback with Amanda in season 1. If that's their early days, then there wasn't anything romantic. Since this is a kids show, after all, no cheating. I would say, Electra, that flashback was a long time ago, and things happen over the years. You know, he's alone, she's alone. They're working late trying to figure out how to kill aliens. You know, one thing leads to another.
we don't hear a lot about Lois's mom.
That's
So
true.
is she dead? Is she out of the picture? I'm not
I can't
sure.
remember. I can't remember from season 1 if we found. I had the vague idea that she had passed away,
Right.
but now I realize I don't remember, and she could be alive.
So maybe after things happened with Lois's mom, that's when
the romance
and Mandy happened. Yeah.
Listen, we can't tell them. The heart wants what it wants, right? Electra said Lois said she got sick and her dad never told her until it was too late. I thought I remembered that her mom passed away.
That's correct.
So like after that though is what I'm saying. You know, he's sad. She comforts him.
Yeah.
You know?
So
I'm writing that romance novel. I'm writing the general Mandy romance novel.
Where is the fan fiction? I think it should exist somewhere.
Get on there and write that fan fiction.
So speaking of Sam Lane, what did you think about him in this episode and the fact that he is now going to be living with Clark and Jimmy?
The idea of him living with Clark and Jimmy, very funny. A very funny twist. I thought that he was good in this episode. I liked that when she's like interrogating him, he's like, I got this. Like, and when they go in to save him, he's like, why did you save me? Like, I had the whole thing under control. And then like moments later, it's like, we're going to kill you. And he's like, maybe I didn't have it as under control as I thought. But he was like cool as a cucumber in there. He was like, Mandy, listen, girl. I know I broke your heart.
They do talk about in the episode that he and Mandy have an understanding and a history.
They sure do. Wink, wink. I'm shipping it. I thought it was funny that he's so annoyed to see Lois there to save him because he thinks he's got it all figured out, and then immediately kind of realizes he's in over his head and actually does need the save. I thought that was a really funny twist where it's like you think that because he's so cool and collected, you're like, oh, actually it does seem like the general's got this, and then it's like, maybe he doesn't got this.
He was also pretty annoyed that Lois came with Superman.
Yes, he was.
So that's got to be worked out. He was also very annoyed that Clark let her go with Superman.
Yeah.
So I have my theory is that his time with Clark and Jimmy is going to bring him to the realization that Clark is Superman.
I think so too. I think it's a lot harder to cover that up with your roommate, your girlfriend's dad, than it would be to just cover it up, for somebody that you see occasionally. Like, how is he going to get in and out of the house? How is he's going to start showing up at weird times, leaving at weird times? Then Superman's going to show up. I think it's going to become very obvious. Very obvious.
Well, that's how Jimmy found out, because they were roommates, and Jimmy was like, I've always known, dude. Like, you haven't been real good at hiding it.
Pretty obvious.
So I think it is very possible that he will figure out the secret identity during this time, which I would welcome. I think Sam Lane, it's better off when he knows. So I hope that he does figure that out during this time. Okay, so I think now to move on to the most important part of this episode. What did you think about Team Flamebird?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Can we talk about Team Flamebird? Because part of Team Flamebird are children. And I just feel like Jimmy has millions of dollars now, and it seems like the Daily Planet has some amount of budget, and it feels like they should be hiring adults, just a couple adults. But most of Team Flamebird are children, and not like college kids looking for credit, like
No,
actual
kids.
children,
It's in the
actual
name.
little
News Kid
children.
Legion.
Yes, the News Kid Legion, not the News Teen Legion. No. They are children, and it does feels like a huge liability issue for the Daily Planet.
Jimmy took him to strikers.
He took him straight to a prison where there was a active prison break happening. It doesn't feel like it makes. He's like, in episode 1, he's like, I know, I need help with my channel. And then episode 2, he's like, the help I've got are children. And you're like, Jimmy, you got so close to what you needed to do, which is hire people, but yet you feel so far away. Like, is he paying these kids? Are they like literal child laborers, or are they like volunteering?
They call them interns. So I don't know if these are paid interns or not.
They have a really flexible internship program, is what I'm saying, because like that kid's 10 maximum.
Well, the news kids have been in the newspaper game.
That's true.
They do have some experience with their own little newspaper that they have put out. So there's that. I mean, it's not like they have no news experience. Although I don't know that their video content ideas are real great, because Flip wants to do a video about volleyball.
Yeah,
and
sure.
I don't know how relevant that is to the current situation.
I mean, when you hire children, you're going to get suggestions like volleyball and kittens. I do love that they found a way to bring in the News Kid Legion in a way that's going to put them in episodes a lot more often.
Yes.
I do think it's very funny how they found a way to do that. They're like, yeah, they'll just be working for Jimmy. Don't they have these children? Don't they have school?
Shouldn't they be in school? I feel like
they not be in school.
Maybe this is after school. Maybe this is like an after school
the after school
activity.
This is they're not there during. Maybe it's summer. We don't know. It could be summer.
True. It
could be their summer program.
Yeah, it's like a summer camp.
And then the other person on Team Flamebird is Steve Lombard, right?
Yes. Of what was his catchphrase? Nah.
Yeah. He's really come around to Flamebird since his channel took off.
He is the one who actually has video content creation experience. He had his own channel. He was doing his own thing. And so I think he is a valuable asset to it. Now, also, his ideas are kind of out there. He really wanted to do something about yachts and making himself, in his words, quote, a metropolis nautical adventure starring the most debonair name in news, unquote. So he wanted to kind of put himself more front and center. But his idea in the end helped save the day.
It did work out. I mean, listen, do people need a lot of yacht content? Probably not. But in this case, the yachts came in handy.
It paid off. So Steve Lombard brought something to the table, even
his yacht knowledge.
Now, they could pair that with Jimmy's video ideas.
That's true.
He said he had most of a video already done on the mermaids of Metropolis Bay.
So there you go.
You could combine the mermaids and the yachts, and maybe have Steve go looking for the mermaids on the yacht. They've already got the yacht.
They've got the yacht.
Yeah.
I hope they used it. I hope they used it in some sort of video.
I mean, does Jimmy own the yacht? Surely he owns the yacht. He spent a lot of money getting that yacht.
Yeah, he did spend a lot of money on the yacht. I personally would have probably went with a rent option because I don't know how much he's going to want a yacht. Although if he did buy the yacht, I do hope that there's like an episode in the future where he's just like hanging out on the yacht. Like
the yacht should come into play more.
The yacht should be like, that Steve is now going to be his new best friend, I think, now that he has this yacht. He's like, Jimmy, my dude. He's got like beers in his hands. He's coming to hang. bang. Jimmy's like, I didn't want this at all.
Do you want to know how much the yacht costs?
Yes, absolutely, desperately.
Okay, so Jimmy's net worth counter, and if in the chat, if you all want to do calculations, I did not calculate it, but I do have the figures. So if somebody in the chat wants to do the subtraction, or Morgan, if you would like to do this. So he starts out with $4,360,006. So that's where he starts. So subtract this figure from that. So $3,754,082.
So wait, and then it's what, 3?
$3,754,082.
Okay, so it looks like he spent about $600,000.
That's pretty
on
cheap
that
for that.
yacht.
I mean, that's a good deal. That yacht
Big-
was pretty big.
Big old yacht. Yeah, sure. Why he definitely bought it then, which I think again, he needs a financial advisor because he could have just rented that yacht for the day and then spent a lot less than this on it. But
now he needs, I would assume, I don't have my own yacht, but I would assume based on my viewing of the classic comedy Overboard with Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell, that you need a crew to operate your yacht. You need a captain. You need people in the kitchen.
I feel like there's like a whole Bravo reality show about this whole thing where it's like they're like overboard or something like that. Below Deck, I think it's called, where it's like these are the people who work on the mega yachts and like so now he's got it. Now he's gonna need to have a cook and like people to actually like run the yacht. I think he doesn't understand what he's getting himself into, which is why he should have just rented the yacht for the day.
So I'm glad they're putting in the figures here.
It's
for
very
us
funny
to continue.
It's looking bad for him already. He's already spent like $1 million+ in 2 episodes.
It is going down quite substantially. But yeah, so the team Flamebird has not really gelled too much in their video ideas for the Daily Planet. Maybe they could make all of these happen. I don't know. But they need to be starting to crank some stuff out. So I hope that they do that eventually. Let's see. I'm trying to see if there were some things in the chat before we can continue going on. Brian asks, mermaids, could Lori Lemaris be coming soon?
That was the first thing I thought too when they mentioned mermaids.
I think it's very possible. I think Lori Lemaris, I'd have to go back and look, but I think she might have been some of the usernames that popped up during the live stream.
Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think she was a little bit of a hater, maybe.
Yeah, she was a viewer of the Flamebird live stream, so I feel like she's already in the universe. So
she's there, she's live chatting.
Yeah. I like that idea a lot. Mind the Gap says it's crazy how Jimmy Olsen teaming up with the News Kid Legion is from Jack Kirby's short run on the Jimmy Olsen comic. So what I'm trying to think back to when Jimmy teamed up with the News Kid Legion, I'm sure that happened. I was trying to think of some of the earlier Newsboy Legion stuff, but yeah, so the News Kid Legion definitely very fun in this series. Brian also thinks that the little girl, I guess Flip, will be Jimmy's boss by the end of the season. If Flip brings the ideas to the table,
listen,
she can make that happen.
Flip is thinking stuff up. Flip is like a couple steps ahead already.
Flip is actually wanting to do the work. So I think if she wants to make that happen, she can go for that. So I guess the only other thing that we need to talk about in this episode was the Lex Luthor of it all. Lex saves Amanda Waller from Ivo and then formally introduces himself to Amanda Waller as Lex Luthor. So Morgan, what do you think about this development that we have Lex Luthor officially in the My Adventures with Superman universe?
It's very exciting. We already kind of figured it out last season when like they introduced a dork wearing purple called Alex. And
purple and green.
You're like, well, who could that be? I wonder. I can't imagine. But so it's nice to get some confirmation on the fact that it is that is actually Lex Luthor. And I think that it's fun how they introduced him in season 1 as kind of a background character, and obviously he's stepping more into the forefront in this season, inspired by Jimmy's pep talk about moxie. He's gonna get out there and be the evil that he knows he can be in his heart. Good for you, Alex. Good for you, Lex.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. And I was interested because I think we did in season 1 kind of suspect that he was Lex Luthor. But we got some information from Cinema Blend about the show's creators and
Oh.
how they came to this. According to Cinema Blend, they said, quote, "We were given a no Lex Luthor mandate for the show for seasons 1 and 2. So originally they were not supposed to have Lex Luthor in the first 2 seasons. But Brendan, one of the show's creators, said, okay. And then he's like, Ivo's going to have an assistant and his name is going to be Alex. And we're like, is this Lex? And he's like, maybe. I love how they're like
Maybe.
casually talking in this interview. It's very nonchalant here. And then our execs are like, is this Lex? And he's like, if you want him to be. And then he got his way. It was so aggressive to watch. This was like a 1.5 year long campaign to get Lex into the show, unquote. So originally, they were not allowed to have Lex, but they snuck him in anyway. So congrats to them
Sneaky. I like it.
for making that happen. So I think that's actually a really smart idea. And I'm glad that they were able to do it the way that they wanted to do it. Well, Morgan, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about with this episode?
I see Electra in the chat says, let's not forget the mention of Clark's cousin and Clark getting that beacon thing.
True. So what do you think about that, Morgan?
The beacon thing was interesting. And I also thought the conversation that he has really briefly with Lois, where she's like, I don't know, is it such a good idea to go to find your cousin? I thought that was interesting too, because it kind of opens up an avenue of conflict in that relationship, where it seems like Lois maybe doesn't want him to find his cousin because she's maybe seen some things about Kryptonians in, say, some alternate universes or the future that make her a little bit wary of Kryptonians who aren't Clark, or let's be honest, maybe even our Clark. So is a bad dude in some of those alternate universes. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting to kind of bring up that idea that like Lois might not feel as motivated as Clark does to find his cousin Kara.
Yeah, Lois says that she doesn't know if the beacon is something they should pursue given what happened on 0 Day. So I think a little bit of her dad is coming out in this situation where she is very skeptical of other Kryptonians and doesn't think it's a good idea. And I think that's kind of sad for Clark because he's really excited to find his cousin, the only other person like him, and Lois is not happy for him in this way. And so I think that is a very sad conflict because I get it from Lois's angle, but I also really get it from Clark's side of things. So I think that's, unfortunately, I hate it when there's conflicts like that introduced with these two characters, but obviously it wouldn't be as good of a story or an episode if there wasn't something that was coming between them. So I think it's very interesting what they've done with them in season 2 because both of them have things that the other one doesn't quite agree with. Like Clark doesn't love Lois's dad. He's not a huge fan. And so
not a big fan of the General. I wonder why.
So Lois being weary of other Kryptonians is, it's kind of maybe not the same, but there's a same level of skepticism of their family. So I think that's a really interesting wrinkle to put in between the two of them. Let's see what else. I think I did want to mention there was one just in terms of like the animation that I thought was really nice. There's a scene where Lois steps off the elevator shaft, and there's a really pretty shot of Superman catching Lois and them kind of hovering together in the elevator shaft with the lights coming in. And I just thought, wow, that is very beautiful. And I just wanted to mention that. So well done in the animation aspect of this show.
I also really liked the lead up to that scene where she steps into the elevator shaft, where Clark is like, you don't jump into the elevator shaft, and she's like, I wouldn't do that, and he's like, I see you edging towards the elevator shaft, and she's like, what do you mean? Oh no. and then falls into the elevator shaft. I thought that was a really funny, him calling her out on the classic Lois Lane, going to put myself in danger to get the story behavior.
I think you have to be a little, I mean, I would warn Lois to be a little careful of that, because what if he gets around kryptonite and he like somehow loses his powers? You can't always count that he will have his powers.
Don't jump into elevator shafts.
I just kind of feel like maybe she should reassess that. There was something else about his powers that I thought was really funny. So there is a scene where they're running away while they're kind of being chased by Task Force X at Strikers, and Superman is flying while Lois runs. And I thought, why doesn't he just pick her up and fly her where they need to go? I thought that was really unfair to Lois. Like, she's running, physically exerting herself to run, and he's just flying.
Just kind of floating along.
Just
how you doing down
Superman.
there?
Yeah, I thought that was like, come on, she's gonna get tired eventually, so just pick her up.
Uncool,
So,
Clark.
I did not think that was cool. I guess we also could mention, because it was kind of a side story, but Clark and Lois meet a little kid named Billy, whose dad is a volunteer librarian at Strikers.
Oh yeah.
And Billy's dad told Billy that people were disappearing and then he never came home. And so Billy tasks Clark to ask Superman to find his dad, because he believes that Superman and Lois can find his dad. And so when they do find him, they find out that Task Force X has been running experiments on the people who disappear to use Kryptonian technology to turn people into weapons. So I imagine that sort of side story in this episode might become a bigger storyline throughout the season.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too, that the idea of like they're like experimenting on the prisoners at Stryker, or even some of the people who work there, without even the general knowing.
Right.
So it kind of makes you wonder what other characters they might pop up as people who have been experimented on, because it sounded like maybe that was part of what happened with like Livewire.
Yep.
Almost. So it was like, ooh, this is interesting. This is kind of like a fun way that they could bring in like characters from like the Rogues Gallery and be like, well, they experimented on them and now they've got this power.
I think they could also tie maybe into the Brainiac part of the season.
Yeah.
Maybe too. I didn't love the technology villains in season 1, but it's the story that they've chosen to go with, and they're at least expanding on it and developing that storyline. So I think it's worth watching to see where that goes. Okay, so is there anything else that we left out that you wanted to talk about with this episode?
I think we covered a lot of it. I thought this was a really good episode. I was just glad to be back in the world with the characters, and I think that the idea of them having to live with the general is very funny. Although I think it's kind of wild that Lois would have suggested that, knowing that Clark is Superman, and that her dad doesn't like. Oh, Electra in the chat says the same thing. Kind of surprised Lois recommended Sam stay with Clark, knowing how much her dad hates Superman and how bad a spot that puts Clark in.
Yeah, she didn't really ask Clark or talk about that with him at all.
Got it right. It's like, does he got it?
Well, in her defense, she was very scared for her dad because he had been kidnapped by Task Force X and she had to go save him. And so I think all she wanted to do is make sure her dad was safe, and she knew he would be safe living with Superman, even though he doesn't know that yet. So I guess in her mind, she thought it was a good idea, but it maybe could have been something she should have run by Clark and Jimmy before that happened. So I'll be curious to see how that pans out. Yeah, I really enjoyed these first 2 episodes. Morgan, I think you watched episode 3. I think you're ahead of me. I chose to wait until after we discussed this set of episodes, so I'll definitely be
That was smart because they were all fuzzy in my head. They're all jumbled in there.
So I'll definitely be checking out episode 3, and maybe for the next time around, maybe we'll discuss episodes 3 and 4 like we did with 1 and 2, just to try to catch up a little bit so that we're with everybody else. But so excited that the show is back, and it continues to rise to the level that it was in season 1. I'm glad that it doesn't feel like it's dropped in quality at all. And if anything, I think it's up the stakes and it's doing new things. So I'm really impressed by this series. So I think it's been good so far.
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job. I can't wait to see what they do with the rest of the season. I can't wait to see Kara.
I don't know when she's going to show up, but
Cousin Quest.
Cousin Quest. All right. Well, I think maybe we need to do some snap judgments before we go. In the game of snap judgments, each person is presented with 2 options, but must only choose one. First instincts are recommended and explanations are unnecessary.
Okay, so the first one has a couple components, so stick with me. Who had the better plan to break into Stryker's prison, Superman or Lois? Now, as a reminder, Lois's plan. Lois pretends to be a wealthy, gorgeous widow, calls her beautiful bodyguard who has fallen for her but can't reveal his true feelings. Lois, as the widow, is at Stryker's to make a large donation to the library wing. They nab a key card and go. Now, Superman's plan to sneak into Stryker's prison is Superman flies Lois into the prison.
Not as complicated.
There's no backstory there.
I like that Lois added that she was making a donation. That
It's so good.
She had a reason to be there.
Of course, as a gorgeous, wealthy widow.
I like Lois's plan in terms of the narrative, but I think Superman's plan actually was effective. So I think I'm going to go with Superman's plan.
I like Superman's plan in that it was much quicker, but I'm going to give it to Lois's plan because Superman's plan doesn't have any backstory, no character development,
no romance.
What's their motivation even when they're just flying in? No. I'm giving it to Lois. She's thought about this.
And also we didn't see it, so maybe it would have worked.
That's true. I'm sure it would have worked. Okay. Would you drink coffee if it was served to you with 2 sugars and no milk? Yes or no?
So this was Sam Lane's coffee order. So I think I would still drink the coffee. I mean, I even like my coffee black. So I think I would take it with just 2 sugars. Yeah. If I was desperate for some coffee, yeah, I would drink it.
I have to say, yeah, as well. It's not my preferred way. I like my coffee to be more like a milkshake than a coffee. The ratios are going to be wild. The sugar's going to be in there. But when I first started at work, I was working in a newspaper, and I was so incredibly lazy that because nobody else took milk in their coffee, I never bothered to go to a Duane Reade and get milk and just put it in the fridge. So I would just have my little coffee black with some sugar in it. And I learned to appreciate it. I can't say I ever liked it. But I know that I can do that. I don't know that would be my go-to coffee order. The General's coffee order is a little bit strange. All right. Preferred romantic gesture, ramen on the Daily Planet roof or flying up to see the northern lights?
I'm not normally a heights person, but I would love to see the Aurora Borealis.
Fancy.
So I feel like if I was with Superman, if I did fall, surely if he didn't get affected by green kryptonite or some other kryptonite that removed gold kryptonite or whatever that removed his power. If he's not affected by kryptonite and he could catch me if I fell, maybe I'd feel a little better about it. So I think I would probably say, because also if you're on a Daily Planet roof, that's still heights for me. So
yeah,
I think at least there with the Northern Lights, I get a good view and a unique experience. So I think that's what I'm going with.
Yeah, I'd have to go for the Northern Lights too, just based on the amount of envy and jealousy I felt when the Northern Lights were visible in certain places in the country recently. Within the past month, they were "Oh my God, look at the Northern Lights out my backyard," and I was Fine. That sounds great. That's so happy for you. So happy. And I didn't realize I felt that passionately about it, but apparently, considering how angry I was at everybody who had beautiful
Almost.
views of the Northern Lights, I think I'd go Northern Lights because you know what? You can have a ramen on the roof of the Daily Planet any old time.
That's true. Well, and Brian puts a wrinkle in it. Can they take the ramen to the
Oh,
Olympics?
that might be messy, but I would be willing to try. Whoops, like you're just like spilled ramen all over each other. But it might be worth the shot. So that would be the sort of the perfect marriage.
Compromise. Yeah.
Okay. Who would you rather have on your video content creation team? Steve Lombard or the News Kid Legion?
Would you have children interns?
Like in the magical version of this television show or in real life?
You know, it's so funny. A lot of my friends' kids who are like little kids,
Mhm.
they love YouTube, just like I do.
Oh yeah.
But they love YouTube and they want to all be full-time YouTube personalities. And I always ask them, I'm like, do you know how to shoot video? Do you know how to edit a video? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, you
Do you
gotta
know how
learn.
long it takes to edit a video? Have you tried that one time?
Have the money to get a software program to edit video? Do you have the time to do that? They have not thought that far.
No, it's not. Yeah.
They just want to be able to stream themselves playing a video game.
Video games. Yeah.
So, so that is something that I think is really interesting about the kids of today. Very different from when I was growing up as a kid. That was not ever a possibility. Although I did want to grow up and become Steven Spielberg. But then when I got older, I was like, I can do better than Steven Spielberg. So
E.T., get out of my face.
Steven Spielberg movies usually end with aliens. And I'm like, I feel like I can do better than this.
Listen, he's got a thing he likes. Leave him alone.
Trading part. But yes, aspire to better than Steven Spielberg is what I'm saying. Although he made one of my all-time favorite movies, Hook.
That's a great movie.
Not end in aliens. That's why it's far superior.
Sometimes wouldn't it be funny if like right at the end it was like and Peter Pan is an alien. What? I didn't see it. Like Robin Williams takes off his ET under there.
Oh my gosh, I would hate it so much.
Rebecca just starts crying.
One of my favorite movies ruined. Where was I going with that? Okay, so I say all that to say I think children of today aspire to be a YouTuber, but I don't think they're as qualified to do it. I think if I was to like build a team, I think I would go with Steve Lombard. He's got the experience. He's a professional. He's got ambitious ideas, but he's got ideas. So I think I'm going to go Steve Lombard on this one.
Yeah, I love the News Kid Legion. I love their moxie. I love what they're bringing to the table. They are children, though. And the thing is that children have so much energy. And I'm so tired all the time. And I can't have that. I can't have that all the time. So I'm going to go with Steve Lombard because he seems like a chiller hang. He mostly just wants to buy a yacht. Jimmy
halfway
has
there.
a yacht now.
Yeah.
So he's just gonna want to chill out on the yacht, talk sports. I could pretend I care about that. And I feel like he's got some ideas. Are they good? No, not really, not yet. But he's actually held down a professional job.
He's been in the news business.
He already kind of works at the Daily Planet. Whereas the other ones are children. So I just feel like Steve's got to kind of have to win by default.
All right. Well, that is going to take us out of Snap Judgments. No judgments on your Snap Judgments. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. If you would like to contact us, you can post a comment on our website at supergirlradio.com. You can email us at supergirlradio@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on X and Instagram, all at Supergirl Radio. And if you like what we do, we encourage you to give us a rating and write us a review on Apple Podcasts. Supergirl Radio is part of the DC TV Podcast and Multiverse of Color Network, so give those a look. You can hang out with us as we go live and wired on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on the DC TV TV Podcast YouTube channel and the Supergirl Radio Facebook page. And DC TV Podcast also has a TeePublic store. So if you are also in need of new DC or DC TV specifically related t-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, magnets, tote bags, pins, phone cases, pillows, or stickers, go to supergirlradio.com and click on the TeePublic store link at the top of the page.
And since these 2 episodes of My Adventures with Superman talked about Krypton, we have some Kryptonian designs in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store that we would like to suggest.
Yeah, if you want to represent Krypton, we've got
Last Son of Krypton one is really good.
Yeah, they're actually kind of there's like No Sleep Till Krypton, which is like a Beastie Boys reference, and the Last Son of Krypton looks like the
Fresh Prince. Yeah.
So it's kind of musical iterations of Kryptonian merch. So if you're into that, we've got those in the DC TV Podcast TeePublic store. Well, if you would like to be part of our Patreon, we would like to thank our Legion of Super Sponsors who are supporting the Supergirl Radio Patreon. These people are Michael, Anne-Marie, Yvonne, Nicola, Abby, Miriam, Nicole, Brian, Ethan, Danny, Majuba, Zachary, Annie, and Rachel. And if you would also like to be part of that, you can go to patreon.com/supergirlradio. We try to do some behind the scenes stuff and extra little bits, and probably need to get back to the movie reviews. So we'll have to plan out some of those and what we need to talk about in regards to that, because there's lots of options. I recently rewatched the Rocketeer movie. Very good. I had not seen it since I was a kid. And, you know, that's a comic book movie.
I don't think I've even ever seen that one, honestly.
Oh, it's pretty good. I think you would enjoy it. It's a bit of a throwback. It's kind of the golden age of cinema. Very much in the old Hollywood setting. So I don't know. That's what I would pitch for us to watch. So we'll have to talk about some stuff that we want to do movie reviews on. So we do that kind of thing over on the Patreon. And if you'd like to keep up with me online, you can follow me in a couple of places. I'm on Vero True Social, which is my personal favorite social media platform. I'm over there at 𝙬𝙪𝙧𝙬𝙪. I like to post about what I'm watching, what I'm listening to in terms of music, things I might be reading. So if you want to follow me over there and find out what I'm currently watching, you might have seen... what did I recently watch? The Jim Henson documentary Idea Man on Disney Plus, which I highly recommend. I posted about that. You can also follow me on Instagram at the 𝙬𝙪𝙧𝙬𝙪, where I post the occasional picture of things that I have taken. You can also follow me on YouTube at youtube.com/duckmilkprod. I also do a semi, I should say, the travel blog I do with my brother sometimes has content, sometimes doesn't. I need to be more consistent about that. But you can follow us at Oasis Broom, and we'll hopefully have some Ireland content coming soon. So if you want to follow our Irish pursuits and travels, we're going to be doing that over there.
I see in the chat, Brian says, "Don't forget to watch Roswell."
Oh,
that's right. We talked about watching Roswell.
We did say that maybe we do that as a pilot pod. So let's talk about that. So we need to plan.
For remembering that, Brian, because I was hyped about that.
we need to plan out our Patreon review and pilot pod schedule. So that's definitely something we need to do.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Mojotastic, and also as a co-host on the Legendary Ladies podcast, where we recently talked about the first part of the season of Bridgerton. And we are going to be talking this week about the romantic comedy Am I Okay? ? That is dropping on our good friend Max I believe this week. So we should be hitting in there pretty fast when this romantic comedy with Dakota Johnson pops up. So you should follow us at The Legendary Ladies on YouTube and Instagram, and at Legends_podcast on Twitter. And, subscribe, because we are doing all kinds of stuff over there and talking about all kinds of stuff. And if you have a topic that you would like us to cover, always let us know, because, sometimes we have it planned out, but sometimes we're just like, uh-oh, what now?
I think you should review Idea Man, the documentary about Jim Henson.
Yeah, I would love to do that. Kat might be a harder call on that one.
She might like it as a
Not her
creator.
favorite
It
thing.
talks a lot about his
Oh,
creative
that's true.
process and how he got into things. It was very good. I highly recommend it.
That sounds awesome. I didn't even know that had come out.
Yes. So go.
I
watch
love
it.
I love Jim Henson because I love the Muppets.
Yes, and you should watch it. I think it was good. So that is all. And is what was the movie that y'all are gonna review?
It's called Am I Okay? Question mark.
I can't wait to find out if he or she is okay.
Is she okay? Yeah, I don't know. Is
Does
Dakota
it answer
Johnson
it?
okay? We will find out.
Do we get to know the answer to that question by then? What if you get to the end and like nobody finds out if she's okay?
Yeah, what if like I don't know if she's okay.
It's gonna have like an Inception ending.
We should just
like
we
just
should
a spinning
structure
top.
the podcast about as a debate about whether or not we think she's okay.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that would be amazing.
Good stuff.
I would love it if there was like a heated debate on whether or not she was okay, and somebody was like, "No, I think she's okay.
I think she's really fine.
I think
she is not okay. She is not okay."
I really like the idea of that. You should do it.
Electra in the chat said, "Good question to ask Dakota Johnson after Madam Web."
That's unfortunate. I feel like I should watch Madam Web just to see what the deal is.
I really want to watch it because I've seen clips online and I know about her mother in the Amazon researching spiders. We all know that. But I have heard that there's like one character who's almost all of his dialogue is like dubbed in afterwards, like ADR'd in. And I saw a little clip and I was like, oh, that's insane. Like it actually is noticeable how bad it is. And it makes me want to watch it.
What surprises me about this is that people don't expect mediocrity from the MCU, and maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm an MCU hater, but like after Thor to the Dark World, I was like, this is it.
To be fair to the MCU, to be entirely fair to them, this wasn't the MCU. This is like the Sony spin-off universe, which also I think makes it even more not understandable that people are like, have any of those movies been good? I mean, I'm sure that there are the Venom Defenders, but I haven't seen it, so I can't.
So are the Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland considered to be MCU?
They are MCU. So the Tom Holland Spider-Mans are MCU, but that's the only character that Sony gave up to Marvel. So they are doing all these other spin-off. The Sony's doing all these other spin-off Marvel movies.
But Sony does
like Morbius,
Venom, right?
Yeah,
so like the Venom movies are pretty popular.
Yeah, I think I've heard those are fun. But they also did Morbius of It's Morbin Time, which was
released in theaters. People wanted to see it again.
They thought people wanted to see it again. But it turned out nobody did.
Okay.
It was like it's a joke. It's the executives really misunderstood that it was a joke, that people were just turned it into a meme. And we're like, oh, the people are crying out for Morbin Time, and then they re-released it in the theaters, and like no one went to see it.
Okay, so just for my clarification, what's his face? Deadpool, the Deathstroke ripoff. He is Sony?
Deadpool is... Oh, I don't actually know if Deadpool is Sony. Deadpool is not in the MCU, though. It's not like under that umbrella. Deadpool might be somebody else, though. It might be Sony, and it might be a different studio.
Oh, Deadpool is Fox, but now
it's Fox.
Disney MCU. Yes, I heard there were going to be maybe some Disney jokes in there. Okay,
I'm sure there will be. They usually go.
So what about Wolverine? Wolverine and X-Men?
X-Men, I think the MCU finally got X-Men back. It was Fox for a long time. Fox held the rights to the X-Men. I think it was Fox. It wasn't whatever it was. It wasn't like the MCU did not hold those rights. But I think they might have gotten the X-Men back finally, or they got the concept of mutants back, because before that they could not even talk about the concept of mutants. They're like, you can't be a mutant, which is why like everybody in all of the shows were like, they had special powers because of some sort of freak accident. Like nobody could be a mutant basically, just because of that. So I think the MCU might have gotten them back, but I'm no expert, so I could be completely wrong and leading you astray.
Yeah.
It said Mind the Gap said Universal still has the rights to Hulk, which is why there has not been a Hulk movie in a long time. I did not actually know that because he shows up in all the Avengers stuff.
But
That's
maybe
so
they
funny.
can't do just like a
Like
Hulk
a standalone
movie.
Hulk movie.
But then there was a She-Hulk TV show. I'm very confused by all
Yeah,
of
I was
this.
going to say, like, I figured that they didn't do a standalone Hulk movie because the first two ones they did were not very good.
I mean, I liked the one with what's his face.
To be fair,
the MCU
I've never seen either of the Hulk movies, so I just know that they weren't well received. I don't know if they were actually any good because I can't speak to that. But I that was my assumption, is that they didn't do another Hulk movie because they were like, I feel like we haven't gotten the Hulk yet. Like we can't get him.
I feel like I've sidetracked us, but I just wanted some clarification on that because I just don't think a large majority of the MCU movies were of good quality. So I was like, oh, Madam
fair.
Web is not good quality. Oh, what a surprise that a Marvel movie is not good quality.
A large portion of the of the Sony movies, comic book movies, have not been very good.
That's fair.
But apparently Madam Web was sort of unique in how bad it was, that like so much was wrong with it. And just the ADR scenes that I've seen make me want to watch the movie, because that looks wild. And I have to know what what was the backstory behind it.
ADR should be used sparingly.
Sparingly, not for every line of a character's dialogue.
That's rough. Well, I guess we should circle back into trying to wrap up this episode.
Yes.
I took us down a rabbit hole, but we're gonna get out of here. So that's gonna do it for this episode of Supergirl Radio. But until next time, I'm still Rebecca Johnson.
And I'm still Morgan Glennon. And remember, don't wait for someone to give you a chance. Make one.
McGurk! I love
Not
typing.
mess with my Google Docs, Meeksy.
Supergirl Radio is going live every night of the week. How do you like it? Is becoming a human burrito a plus or a minus? I don't know. It does seem snug.
I mean, they say you are what you eat.
I love that.
So I do a podcast called Supergirl Radio, and one of our segments is 𝙈𝙾 𝘼𝙪 Boardroom or Ballroom, because
She looks like a boss in this coat.
Nasty Luthor like a different Luthor? It's not just Lena being mean?
No.
Helen Slater here. So fun to know that you're hosting a podcast called Supergirl Radio.
Yay!